Hi, I'm Jerry Walker, one of the founding partners of FlockBase Software. I'm also a CPA. I've been practicing public accounting since about 1991. I've helped a lot of ministers and churches throughout the years with their taxes. And we're pleased today to provide you with a seminar regarding the new IRS Form W-4 that was released in December. There have been a lot of significant changes to the form, and we think that you will find the information in this seminar very helpful.
Hi, I'm Kevin Cheshire. I get the privilege of partnering with Jerry in FlockBase Software. And like Jerry, I'm also a CPA, and I haven't spent my career in public accounting. I've been on church staffs for about the last 25 years. At FlockBase Software, if you've never heard of it, we are the affordable church software solution. We provide a complete solution that meets the needs of just about any small to medium-sized church, and we do so at a very affordable price. If you've never heard of us, I encourage you to go to our website, check it out, www.flockbase.com. Look around, and you'll notice that we even offer a free 2-week trial if you're interested. So try it out. I think you'll really like it.
Now we'll begin with the seminar. We have a slide deck, and we think it will be very beneficial for you. Hey, this is Jerry Walker here again. We're going to begin the presentation of the new 2020 Form W-4. Our objective is to help you understand how to complete the new W-4 form for employees. As you know, this is being presented by FlockBase Software, the affordable church software solution. And I want to give you a little bit of the background about this new form. So in December 2017, President Trump signed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which was the most significant change in the tax law since 1986. So prior to that law, the W-4 form would ask you for your filing status, the number of allowances, and extra withholding. But the new law does not let you claim a deduction for allowances or personal exemptions. So the old form is not compatible with the new law. So that's why the IRS, really had to create the new form. Now, even though they've created the new form, it is not mandatory that you fill it out, complete it, and turn it into your employer, but we highly recommend you do so because the old form is simply not aligned with the current law. So even in 2018, if you left your old form in place, in fact, there was not a new form for 2018 or 2019, but in 2020, they're going to change the way they calculate the withholding. So even if you don't turn in a new W-4 form, your tax withholding will be different for 2020. So we highly recommend that you do complete the new W-4 form. And you can download the new form at the IRS website, and it'd probably be a great idea if you had a copy of that in front of you as we go through this seminar. So on the right-hand side, you can see a copy of the form. It's in 5 different sections. Step 1 is the personal information. Step 2 is where you're going to answer questions about multiple jobs or the spouse worksheet. Step 3 is about claiming dependents. Step 4 is other adjustments. And step 5 would be to sign and date. Now in step 1, the first thing, of course, is you're just going to enter your name, which seems very straightforward, but I want to emphasize that you need to enter your name as it appears on your Social Security card. So if you've been recently married and you haven't changed your name on your Social Security card yet, you would need to list your former name because you absolutely want and need for your name on your W-4 to match what is on your current Social Security card. For your address, you want to list the address where you want your IRS records mailed. Then when we get to the filing status, remember that this is the filing status as of the end of 2020. So if you start off 2020 single, but let's say you're engaged and you'll be married before the end of 2020, then you will want to go ahead and use one of the married filing statuses. So your choices for filing status are single or married filing separately. Single is pretty obvious. Married filing separately is if you're married but you don't intend to file a joint tax return with your spouse. The second option there is to file married filing jointly. That's the most common option for those who are married. Or the third option is head of household. Generally, we think of a single parent as head of household, and that is true. To file as head of household, you need to be unmarried and you need to pay more than one half of the cost of maintaining a household for yourself and a qualifying individual. I'll shift it now to Kevin.
Hi, this is Kevin, and I'm back. We're going to talk about steps 2 through 4. This slide is just a highlight of all 3 of those steps. And remember, we only complete steps 2 through 4 if they apply. They're not mandatory. You just need to complete them if they apply to you. So in step 2, we're going to talk about multiple jobs or spouse worksheet. And this is for situations where collectively you and your spouse have more than one job. Could be 2, could be 3, could be 4. Step 3, we'll then talk about dependents. And then in step 4, we'll talk about other income. And this would be interest income, could be dividend income, could be income from a small business that you own. Step 4, we'll also talk about deductions, the itemized deductions. We'll get into that in a minute. And then also extra withholding if you want the IRS to withhold a little bit of extra. Now this bottom bullet is probably the most important on this screen. The IRS provides 2 methods to complete your W-4. One is what we're going to go over today. It's the paper method. The other method is to go to their website, to go to the W-4 app that they provide, and go through that process. And that will give you, in the IRS's way of thinking, that will give you the most accurate result. But we're going to go through the paper method. At the end of this, you may want to go to the IRS's website and walk through their app as well, just to see if you get a similar number. Step 2, multiple jobs or spouse worksheet. Now, very important, we're only going to complete this if we have more than one job at a time. So if you have one job for the first 6 months of 2020 and a different job for the second 6 months of 2020 and no other jobs on the tax return, then you're not going to do this step. So one at a time, or if you're married filing jointly and your spouse also works. So you have 2 jobs or more combined. Then also, if you need to complete step 2, we're going to use the multiple jobs worksheet that's on page 3 of the IRS's forms, or, this is important, if there are only 2 jobs total and the jobs have similar pay, then you're going to check the box on line 2C. Now in step 3, we're going to claim dependents. We're going to group dependents into 2 categories, those that are under 17 that are qualifying children, and then all other dependents. But before we do that, this is important to note, if your total income is less than $400,000, if you're married filing jointly, or $200,000 if you're single or head of household, then you still get to claim the dependent deduction. If your income exceeds those 2 limits, then you do not get to claim a deduction for dependents. And you'll notice we have a tax credit of $2,000 per qualifying child, as long as that child is under the age of 17 at 12/31/2020. And other dependents, any children that are 17 or older, or other dependents, you will get a $500 tax credit. Step 4. Step 4, this is where, line 4A, where you will enter your other income. And as I mentioned earlier, this could be interest, it could be dividends, it could be rent from a rental property that you own, it could be royalties, any type of other income that you want to include and have your employer withhold on your paycheck. If you do not want this income included, if you want to send in quarterly estimated payments, then do not include it here. Line 4B is other deductions. Basically, we're going to go back and look at the itemized deductions and add them up and see if they're going to be enough to help us. So you need to consider your real estate taxes, your state income taxes, and your sales taxes. You need to add in your mortgage interest, charitable contributions, and then a 4th category that some of you may need is if you've had significant medical expenses in excess of 7.5% of your income, then those will get to count as well. So when you add those up and compare, if you're single or married filing separately, if that number is greater than $12,400, or if you're head of household and it's greater than $18,650, or if you're married filing jointly and the total of the itemized deductions is greater than $24,800, you're going to take the difference, not the total amount of the itemized, but the amount that exceeds these 3 numbers, whichever one's appropriate for you. And then also we're going to look at other deductions. Could be student loan interest, IRA contribution, could be HSA contribution. Please note, if you're doing a 401k, that's already factored into your W-2, so you would not include it in this calculation. So now I'm going to turn it back to Jerry.
Thank you, Kevin. So now we're down to line 4C, extra withholding, and that's a very important line on the Form W-4. If you completed the multiple jobs worksheet back in step 2, then you will transfer the figure from that multiple jobs worksheet to this line 4C, and that will be your extra withholding amount. If you use the IRS tax estimator on their website, then you will transfer the results from their estimator to this line 4C. Or thirdly, if you just simply want extra tax withheld from your paycheck, you can add it to the amount on line 4C. I know some people like to use their tax refund basically as a savings account. So they may want to have an extra $50 per pay period withheld just so they get a larger refund at the end of the year. I'm not really recommending that because that's effectively making a 0% interest loan to the government for a whole year. But if that's what you choose to do, that's certainly where you can include that amount is on line 4C. Now, up to this point, we've just talked about all of the normal rules that apply for completing the Form W-4. But you probably are aware that for ministers, there are special withholding rules. So first of all, you just have to make sure that you qualify as a minister. You know the rules. You've got to be licensed, ordained, capable of performing the sacraments of your church, and considered a religious leader by your church and leading some form of religious worship by your church. But if you meet all of those criteria, then you're going to have these special withholding rules for ministers. A couple of the special rules are, number one, your church is not required to withhold any taxes from your paycheck. So a church has to hold out taxes from its normal non-minister employees, but for minister employees, the church simply is not required to withhold taxes from the paycheck. Instead, the ministers are responsible for paying their own income and self-employment tax. And when we use the phrase self-employment tax, that really just means Social Security and Medicare tax. Another special rule is that ministers are eligible to receive a housing allowance, which is not subject to income tax, but is subject to the self-employment tax. So, ministers have to pay their own taxes. Now, how are they going to accomplish this? Well, they have a couple of different options. Number one is a minister can submit a Form W-4 to their church and indicate on line 4C how much tax they want withheld. And if the minister submits that form to the church cannot deny it or refuse it. The church would then be required to withhold the taxes. But you realize the tax withholding is not being calculated by the normal withholding forms. It is simply being withheld based upon the entry on line 4C of the Form W-4. So the minister calculates how much tax they want withheld and write it in on line 4C, and that's the only thing the church is required to withhold. And calculating the amount that a minister owes is, a pretty complex thing, so you're probably going to need assistance from a tax professional for the minister to calculate how much they want withheld. Or the second option, of course, and this is what many ministers do, is they just simply make quarterly estimated tax payments using Form 1040-ES. So on this slide, we've got our disclaimer, of course, which just simply means you can't sue us because we're providing free tax advice here. And we hope you found it helpful and meaningful and informative. We sincerely do want to be beneficial and helpful to churches. We do consider ourselves the affordable church software solution. We've got all the features that a small church, mid-sized church would need, and we believe our prices are very, very reasonable and fair. We hope you have a great day. Thank you very much.
Well, we're back. Hopefully you found the seminar helpful. As you move forward into 2020 and begin to get employees to fill out the W-4s, I know you're going to have questions. You can refer back to the seminar, and also be sure to go to the IRS's website and check out the estimator.
And if you haven't checked out FlockBase software yet, we hope you'll do so at www.flockbase.com, and we hope you have a great day.